Hi guys, Alec, Peirce, Scuba, Vintage Scuba, Vintage Scuba. Yes, now this particular episode is in direct response to some of your questions and comments, and it specifically addresses how do I service my vintage regulator? How do I service my vintage gear? I'm going to do a couple of these, but today specifically we're going to talk about a vintage regulator. Now, to be perfectly frank, this is not a vintage regulator. It's an old regulator. It's a Dacor from late 70s. Anything older than 75 is considered a vintage. So this is almost vintage, okay? We'll put a new classification in, pre-vintage. But anyway, there's a beautiful regulator, and it was sent to me by a good friend, in fact, one of my viewers. And he asked me if I would look at it and if I thought it was worth restoring. It was his regulator. He's had it for years and years and years. Used it a great deal. He loves it. I had several of these and sold them in the store and used them. They are fantastic regulators. This happens to be a Dacor 900. Dacor 900, one of the very most popular and one of the best regulators ever made. Had lots of nice features that were new in the late 70s. Swivel on the top. It had an AER kit, all environmental regulator. That's what's called AER kit. Basically, it was called an antifreeze kit. It didn't stop it from freezing, but you know, it kept the water out of it, so at least it stopped it from corroding, and maybe it did reduce the likelihood of freezing a little bit. Beautiful second stages, nice easy breathing, automatic venturi. You don't know about that, I'll explain that sometime. Today they're manual. They used to have automatic venturis. Yeah, pretty neat. And everything in chrome, beautiful chrome. Look at that. Isn't that nice? I actually buffed this because I had a lot of scratches from Dave's obviously had a lot of fun with this regulator. How did I get it like this? It didn't look like this when it arrived. It was in good shape. Don't get me wrong. Dave has kept good care of it. Mainly the outside. The inside not so much because it has not been serviced. Not in a very long time anyway. It has been serviced because I found some you can see if you've serviced enough regulators, new and used, eventually you begin to realize when you see something, that's because somebody serviced it and didn't do a good job previously. So I could see some of that in there. But there was no damage. It was not badly corroded. There was no problems with it. So I said to Dave, yep, let's do it. Probably worth it. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, you have to have some guidance. And the only real way to get guidance is to get the original factory service manual. So this is the original factory service manual for that regulator, and there, in fact, is the regulator right there. I believe I have a picture of this regulator, all the parts laid out. Let's see if I can find that and get Kevin to post it. But there's all the parts. This is obviously a sophisticated regulator. You can tell quickly there's about 35 parts in this first stage. You get a nice simple regulator, like I'm trying to think of one here, a Scuba Pro Sport or a Sherwood Brute. And they have one moving part, not counting the spring, a couple of O-rings. But this is a very sophisticated regulator, balanced AER kit, and lots of extras in there, so there's a lot of parts to it. This particular service guide serves a few purposes. First of all, it helps you to keep track of all the parts. There are a lot in here. Secondly, it does actually have a step-by-step how to disassemble, how to assemble. Now, I got to be honest with you. This is from 1980, revised in January 1980. So this is old as well. And back then, they assumed that people working on regulators had a bit of training and a bit of mechanical ability, knowledge about regulators. So they didn't actually put everything in the service guide. So it would say, for instance, to reinstall the high pressure seat, be sure to put the O-ring on the washer in first. That would do like that, you see. And then it would skip. It would say, now reinstall the hoses and put it under high pressure. There'd be a lot of parts left on your bench. They assumed that you knew that the filter went in, the clip went in, and so on. Today, when a store person takes a service course, they go through step by step, every little piece on there. And they usually get a DVD, some form, electronic form of service guide, and it is every step. You literally can put that on a computer in front of you, and it says, take off the screw on the top. You take that out. Set it to one side. Take off the thing under it. Yeah, it's step by step, all the way apart and all the way back together. So besides the service guide, the original service guide, it is helpful if you have a bit of an idea of what's going on, a bit of experience. That would be helpful. Secondly, you need some tools. Not too many tools are special. I have a bunch of tools over here, screwdrivers and pliers, proper size wrenches, lots of picks. You always need lots of picks. So ask your friendly dentist if he has some old picks. Apparently they throw these out. Stainless steel picks, they've been used a few times, they're great. Or you can get some commercial picks. And then you need a few tools that are specific to regulators. You need to have an intermediate pressure gauge. I've spoken about that on my tech tips. Interesting enough, while for 90% of regulators out there, you have to have a second stage adjustment tool, breathing effort adjustment tool. For the Dacor, you do not. It's an interesting regulator. Maybe I'll talk about that again sometime. It actually has its own breathing effort adjustment built right into it. So you need a few tools. You need some cleaning supplies. So you might need CLR, a good quality soap, Simple Green, something like that. Clean, pure water, distilled water preferably. Maybe an ultrasonic cleaner, depending on how bad it is. An ultrasonic cleaner that's inexpensive now in the proper cleaning solution. That helps you a great deal. So you can return all these parts back to their super clean, like new appearance. Now this regulator is, how old is that, Kevin? That's 20. It's 40 years old. And most of these parts I was able to restore. The rubber parts a little bit dry, but I was able to restore almost everything to almost like new. Some of the rubber parts I did not. The hoses, for instance, were pretty badly cracked. I think it's on the on this hose, the primary hose. There was a nasty split and crack where it goes into the regulator. That's the kind of thing you need to watch for. And that's not unsurprising. In fact, I would have been surprised if the hoses weren't deteriorated, if not actually broke. So the hoses have been replaced completely. Brand new primary hose and a brand new all yellow. This diver had put yellow markers on the octopus hose, but now the convention is to have a all yellow octopus hose, so that's what I've installed for him. The mouthpieces were still good. They were silicone, but they're kind of yellow looking, so I'm going to replace those for him, and the O-rings. Now, what about the other parts? Because contrary to what is common belief, all regulators are not the same. All filters are not the same. High pressure seats are definitely not the same. Diaphragms are not the same. Dacor, as a matter of fact, they used a slightly thinner diaphragm. Same diameter, but see, so the point is that specific parts for specific regulators can be different. And you're always better from a safety point of view and for ease of service and for making sure it works properly. You're always better to have factory kits. Now there's a problem. Parts for this regulator have not been made for 35 years. Service kits are no longer available. You can't go into your local dive store and ask for a service kit for a Dacor 900. So if you're working with vintage equipment, you're going to have to go looking for parts. Some regs, you haven't got a hope. Not a hope. But a lot of regs, and particularly popular regulators from a big name like this, you can often find kits. So I was able to find for this fellow, I was able to find original Dacor kits. First stage kit and 2 second stage kits. So that all the parts that I've used in this rebuild are completely new. And the cleaning, and then what else did I want to say, Kevin? I think that's just about it. So basically what it takes then is a basic understanding of how it works, a bit of mechanical skill, hopefully the original or close to original service manual. So you know which parts and where they go, part numbers if you have to order them, and how to assemble and reassemble. Proper cleaning supplies, grease, whatever grease you're going to use. Silicone grease, certainly for older regulators, is still the standard. If there's any chance the diver is going to be using nitrox and enriched air, then you need to use an oxygen-compatible grease. But again, contrary to popular belief, you do not need to use oxygen-compatible grease only. Regs work just fine with silicone grease, but that's another debatable subject we'll talk about, and various tools and so on. But if you do that, you take your time. They're not complicated mechanisms. Take your time, take it apart, service manual, parts list, and you can get the right parts, carefully reassemble it, then adjust it, maybe with some help from some of my tech tips, Alec, Peirce, Scuba tech tips, maybe with some help from there. You can actually take a 40-year-old regulator, that's how old this is, 40 years old, 40-year-old regulator, and not only make it perform perfectly, just as it did brand new from the box, but it looks almost brand new as well. Something you can be really proud of and use as well if you actually want to use it. So yes, it can be done. Just takes a little bit of time and effort on your part. Anyway, I hope there was something in there of interest. Maybe you have some comments. Some divers say they don't want to see old regs fixed. Some dive store owners don't want old regs fixed. They're concerned about them for a variety of reasons. We can talk some more about that as well. Anyway, Alec, Peirce, Scuba, vintage Scuba, how to fix an old regulator. Talk to you soon.